I hope that we can look at things from a perspective of economics and not necessarily personal opinion, because the battle of the public opinion has long, whether we agree with it or not, has long since been one that this is reality. In reference to your question, there's a topic that's not being talked about, and it's geoengineering. If the world's really warming and 2 degrees is the limit, why don't we just geoengineer? And where do they get this idea? Mount Pinatubo, or I didn't say that correctly, in its eruption, put a lot of sulfuric compounds up into the atmosphere, and it cooled the Earth immediately. So we do have a tremendous amount of natural activity. I wonder about all these fires in California. You know, what I mean, do we tax them for that or not? But I mean, independent of the natural activity, I think one thing that we would all have to say is the growth of mankind. You know, almost, you know, over 6 billion or 7 billion people close on the planet. It has to have an impact, and that impact is really about 3 things. It's about population or people, it's about competition for natural resources, and it's about quality of life. Despite the science that can be disputed or supported, the reality is that we're reaching critical mass in several of these key areas, and if we stay polarized and we say, well, what about, you know, natural sources? What about, I mean, then at the end of the day, that dollar amount I showed you, somebody else is going to own. The fact that they're going to put value on carbon makes it a form of currency. We own methane, which is a great constituency. So in this cap and trade system that's proposed, if we look at current systems, how does it work? You have the compliance market, which is the people we're going to regulate. And then in addition to the regulate, like within RGGI, they say 3% of the carbon in that market can come from the free market economy. So there's this whole voluntary carbon market in the world, and in California and other places, where people are planning city parks, and they're doing estimates, and they're creating a greenhouse gas sink, and they now have credits. And that credit is being held by, you know, the Carbon Reserve or one of these institutions. Now, when that legislation hits, the regulated community is going to have to buy carbon credits from that voluntary market if we're not wise enough to say, hey, wait a second, there's an economic thing going on here. I just showed the natural gas community, which, as you saw, was a small portion of the overall emissions because everybody else burns the natural gas that we produce, right? But natural gas is a bridge to this clean energy future. So we need to understand the mechanisms. We need to understand what that value means that they place on carbon. And yes, perhaps to your credit, in our best defense, instead of trying to take a rich burn engine and bring it to the ultimate state of compliance and at best performance, maybe we should go plant some trees. Maybe agriculture and soil management is what we might invest in to offset what our carbon footprint might be. But it's inevitable and it's conclusive that it's going to happen because it's been brewing since the early 90s. And there's an international, we got a global economy. We've got a global economy, and there's pressure on the economics of that. So if it's happening in the rest of the world, and we're getting this ground-up movement from the States, what do? We have to acknowledge it.